peace.
Or maybe you'll have the burps. I don't know. Could have the burps. Hey, so as we often do on this show, two things happen. Carrie will say, I want to go find somebody who's an expert in Tudor castles. And I will say, oh, this guy's really kind of interesting. I know this person vaguely through some social network I belong to. I want to bother him. So it's my show kind of show today because I have Tom Watson from Glass. So
I thought his last name was Glass. Like in my head, it was Tom Glass. I don't know.
like an old Brady Bunch episode. So we've got Tom Watson for Glass. We're going to talk business models. I'm going to nerd out about obsessive camera things. He'll finally get me to shut up, and it'll be a good episode.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
Your parents?
Charlie this time. That's who I looked at.
Oh, really? Jesse Cole from the Savannah Bananas for me. They're doing amazing stuff over there. So Mama and Papa Brogan are here. Chloe from Scotland.
Chloe's here.
Hello. Happy Friday, everybody. This may have escaped your attention. Some people have gotten way into photography lately.
Who? I've had a back and forth with photography for a long time because, my mom picked it up. My mom was sort of the Kodak a long, long time ago. Jeffrey Hazlett, when he was CMO of Kodak, called women, moms and families, the chief memory officer. It's like the one really cool branding thing he ever did at Kodak. And he said...
That's mean.
What?
Well, he did that one thing. I guess that was all right.
He's done other things since. I'm just saying, like, his big market Kodak was to come up with that concept, chief memory officer. So my mom was that kind of a human. Like, a lot of people have, that person in the house who has the camera, who does the camera thing. And so I've kind of come and gone with it. I've been super fascinated about it lately. And I made a comment about, gee, I'm just starting to edit RAW. What should I do? And my buddy Miha said, oh, well, I'll talk you through Lightroom. And I was like, yeah, that sounds super cool. And Miha Baldwin. And so then midway through this, I said, so where do you post your stuff? Like, Flickr, I went back to Flickr. It's just feeling old and poopy. I'm not such an Instagram guy. I don't know what to do. And he goes, Glass. Have you seen Glass? And I went, oh my gosh. And I was like, this is so cool. And then he says, you got to pay, but it's so worth it. And I went and I was like, how much? Take my money, please. And because it's a private social network, I don't even know if he calls it a social. We'll get him in a second. It's a private social network.
Tom Glass.
Tom Glass, yes, Tom Watson of Glass. It's everything Instagram isn't. Like, if you go on Instagram, it's just people chasing the algorithm. It's just a whole endless, look at me. Whereas Glass is just a bunch of really chill people sharing photos. So we've got to talk to Tom. We've got to ask a whole lot of questions. I'll start.
I feel like you would be infuriating, by the way, as a mom who's like basically a photojournalist for all my kids. If I was like, hey, honey, will you take some photos? You'd be like, look at this mushroom. Look at this cloud formation. Look at this weird couple across the street. And they'd be like, you could see maybe the kid's hair in the corner of one or something. I would lose my mind.
I'd be at the kid's birthday party taking a picture of how the paper fell over in such a way that it makes like a shadow on the wall behind it. Yeah, I've got to ask Tom. Tom, you must have some number of those kinds of people on your site as well, who are more the artist than they are the historian of the family.
Oh, totally. I mean, I would say, generally speaking, that impetus to like take artistic photos or more creative or like that tends to be more of the people who are inspired and excited to be part of Glass, less the family photos and memory sharing. It tends to be people who are really photography enthusiasts. They just love it.
I would have murdered you. I'm just saying, if I was like, hey, take photos of the birthday party and we got the bush in the neighbor's yard, that would be the end of you. There'd be no Glass participation.
So I'm going to show a little bit of the site because I had to log in. That's why if you saw me making a weird face, I was trying to log in. So, I mean, it is on a mobile device. It is so beautiful. You should sign up on the web. It's a little easier to sign up on the web. It is a paid. Well, Tom, do you call it a paid social network? Let's start there.
We've really wanted to shy away from the term social network. Like, it's a community, and even more so, like almost like a really big global club. Like that's the way when you were saying social network, I think you said on the preview, I was like, ooh, that's a good talking point.
Yeah.
It's really because of the private community aspect of it, and because it is a paid service, the quality of connection you get is very, very, very different than what you're used to online. You do get what you pay for in a way, and I think it's both the quality but also the interaction you get with members. Initially, people are a little hesitant because we've been trained over the years to not comment or comment threads are full of trolls, but our community is exceedingly nice. And I'd say that in a positive, way, but it's like
Trolls don't want to pay.
People don't, and when they do, they are a lot more committed to it. I have a story from when I used to design large social networks, and I was an early designer for Facebook, and one of the my colleagues and friends of mine got into this, I don't know, say argument or just discussion or belief. This was back in 2009, so it's been a few years. It's 15 years ago, but there was this belief that if you it was novel at the time that Facebook was like one user, one person, one account, no fake handles, no, it was just your real name. And so the idea was that by doing that, people will behave better online. You have your real identity tied to who you are, and so when you are commenting or interacting on Facebook, you'll be more civil. Turns out, though, people will still be very not nice online, even when their real name and real associations associated is right there on there. And so that was like an assumption. I think we kind of maybe missed the mark. We were hoping, we had the belief, but I don't think it panned out that way. Turns out, though, if there's financial incentive involved, it really does seem to work. And we've been really seeing that over the last few years. And it's great. As long as you're willing to give us a little money to keep doing this independent project, we're really excited to keep building it for everybody. We love doing it.
As a user, what I've come to experience over the last little while is I can't tell you how like warming it is. So first off, you're more or less incented to put like just a handful of photos, like one or so photos at a time. You put one up, you like wait a little while, you might come back in the afternoon and take a look, you put another. So already the impetus is not to like stuff it like some platforms, Flickr, that's what Flickr wants you to do. Pinterest, you're supposed to design whole boards of things, and yes. So like it's not saying you have to do any one particular use case. Like you don't have to do this is my life, or you don't have to do these are my artsy things. You could do whatever you want with it. But what I like about it, sort of use case wise, it sort of gently tells you maybe just put one or two photos. It also you opt in to follow people. There's no algorithm saying maybe you should follow this guy. In fact, it's almost like a job to go find some people that are into what you do, which you do by way of the explore function. So like you can get to new people, but if you don't want them, like there's this one person who's like posting like about 6 photos every time they post, and I'm thinking maybe I'll stop following that person. But it's all so much calmer than a regular social network. And so I like that you call it a community because it feels like one.
Can we see middle right closer, the one with the policeman looking at the motorcycle? I want to look.
Oh, yeah.
Middle right.
All right. So this was Salisbury Beach. This man here in the motorcycle has a big flag. He is playing super loud music. And these cops are all sort of thinking, well, this is novel. And they were sort of thinking through the concept of, do I do something about this right now, or like just let this guy be his little free self? And they opted for just let him do his thing, and he was gone again, and he was happy that he did his thing, and the cops just kind of chuckled and did cop things. So anyway, there you go. So Tom, to the concept of community, tell me a little bit about your feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the things you highlighted are pretty intentional. We'd love to make it even easier for you to find the people and discover the people you want to follow and connect with, but we don't do any manipulative algorithm. So like it's very intentional, and that slow pace comes from that. Like you immediately just kind of, and I think, if you've used social networks in the past, a decade plus ago, a lot of that pace felt natural and more connected. But these days, like, it's an engagement casino, right? Like they're incentivized. I mean, you are what you're incentivized to do, and they need to keep you on that platform, staring at it as much as possible and keep your attention as much as possible in order to sell ads to you. And so it's not novel, but so we don't have any of that incentive. You pay a monthly or yearly fee, and then we get to build the best product possible for our members. And that incentive is so nice. As someone who has worked both at Facebook and at Pinterest and had to balance the three-sided marketplace, this is just such a new way to do it. And it makes me very happy to get to make very different choices as a product designer and co-founder of Glass. It's wonderful. So, I'm always massively thankful to the community members that are paying for us. We have a patron tier, even more thankful for them, because we don't have an advertising model, and it's a purely subscription only product. So it's good. You can sign up and like be a viewer for free and check a few things out we're pretty cautious about changing that community aspect. It's a 2-week free trial, so we like to give you a lot of time to check it all out. And you have your intention to delete the account if you want. We get to do all the things that I feel like we don't have to rely on dark patterns or anything to keep you engaged. It's all very, I know this sounds cliche, but transparent Glass. So for the interaction. I know I'm a dad, Carrie. It's fine. So yeah.
Dad jokes abound.
I was to understand there were going to be some statistics on this episode of the Backpack Show.
Oh yeah, I was going to give you some stats. So like my co-founder Stefan Borsche was like, "Hey, you got to tell them how great we're doing." And so like since January 2022, so all these are since January 2022, our monthly comments. So like this is community engagement stuff. We're up 460%. So like the appreciation. So that's our version of likes. And this is very intentional. Like everything we do is like maybe quite a bit slower, but very intentional. So you don't have counts on Glass. So we don't have public counts. And like Instagram has offered that now, but like that's not the default way in which you interact. A lot of that is about even engaging and finding out all of the counts and all the stats that you're getting on your photos. And instead, those are stripped away, even for yourself. So you maybe get a lot of appreciations or a lot of comments, but you don't have to sit there and stat them up and like judge your photos based on every little photo, like every little bit every little stat. So, but they're up, since you wanted statistics, Gary, they're up, appreciations are up 610%. And like since January 2022, and our monthly posts are up over 200% since January of 2022. So we've had a really good like run of exciting stuff coming. And I mean, just to give you more stuff that's happening with Glass that I'm excited about, we are launching series. So you were saying how it's very intentional. You just upload 1 or 2 photos at a time. And we wanted to preserve that same feel, but we spent a lot of time trying to come up with a unique way in which our take on, I would say, photo albums or what Instagram does with carousels. So it's similar to an album, but it's you continually update it over time, and it generates a feed story for you and in the people that are following you's feed, but it's collapsed into one photo. So it doesn't overwhelm you. Like you were saying, you're getting like 6 photos this person. I don't want to. So if they choose to use the series, and there's choice, obviously they could do it manually one by one, but they can upload a batch of photos and then it gets consolidated into one. And then there's a collection of photos below or in part of that post unit. And then you go into it and it's almost like a full album. And I can, you can go to our website, and we have a previous highlight. It's our version of a blog that it's got to be camera branded. That shows you the latest of what we're doing for designs, and that's coming next month. Is the plan. So like sometime next month. So we're very excited to get that out to all of our members. It'll come to patrons first, and then shortly after we'll be able to get it to all our members. So we're very excited.
Is there a gong? Like if somebody's photos are really terrible for like ever, will you eventually make them go away?
No,
go back to Instagram.
No. We want to be a very welcoming community, right? Like it's one of those things where I still try to welcome every new member to Glass when I can. I try to carve out time in my day to just leave them a comment. We get quite a few now, so it's a little harder for me to keep up with it, but it's nice. I think it's just a reminder to make sure people comment and comment about the photo in a nice way, and usually kind of to shift that conversation. Like we do a lot of things that are subtle, that are intentional to make it much more of a photographer focused community and enthusiast community versus someone who's just like, I'm here to share my family photos, which I love and I'm here for, like, but that's a little different than this. These are, camera nerds, and like I'm one, and Chris, you're kind of becoming one or already are one, and like Carrie, we'll get you. You're going to be excited about it. I don't know.
I think some pretty good ones, but I take them on my phone because I can't with all that.
We have some incredible iPhone or Android only photographers on the platform, so it's pretty great.
But like Mr. 3-4 cameras over here, it's a little intimidating.
But look, I want to dive in for two things. So one is, this is my feed. One of the things that happens when I don't know if you call it a feed. This is all the photos. Yeah. So when I look at things like this, so I look at this street photographer, Sean Bruce. I look at this and how he totally framed up this guy in the smoke, and I'm like, oh, so smart. In New York, there's always stuff coming out of the manhole covers. You could totally get that done. This person behind the pole, I'm like, I could totally steal this. Like that's what makes you also not just photograph your children, is you start looking through these and going, look at this person with the umbrella on the stairs. It's the only parasol, I guess. It's the only person doing it. But then you got Michael Phipps, like, here's my breakfast, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it can.
But then you've got like Bam is an incredible photographer. He's one of his consistency is crazy.
Astounding, right? Look at that.
You start to one of the things we do both on the iPhone, and then you have a hover for the web, but we don't, it's just the photo. And then you start to play this game where you're like, I think I know who this is before you hover over it or before you tap it. And then when you're right, it's pretty fun, so it's very intentional. As you can see, you've got sort of a following and community model that's, reminiscent of other networks I've worked on. And then you've got this very visually rich grid from Pinterest, I was a product designer from 2013 to 2018 at Pinterest. So like you can see, where I've brought in past experiences to pick and choose what I think would be the most intentional for it. Like we're an interface removed sort of platform, as in we try to not mess with the photos. Like it's really all about we preserve aspect ratios. We do everything we can to make the photos as high quality and visually rich as possible per platform. Stefan's an incredible full stack engineer, but his backend chops came from Amazon Web Services. So he knows how to optimize to be cost efficient, because we are bootstrapped and like everybody wears a lot of hats. And so we have one other iOS engineer, Joao, who helps out tremendously and helps us build our iPhone app. And then we have Daniel, who, if you join Glass, will obviously really quickly get to know, who's our head of community and marketing. And he also posts some very fun YouTube content and a lot of other social spaces. So be sure to check us out on all the different, social channels if you want to get a feel for it, but
get the rest of the story. Well, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I promise I'll shut up and let Carrie talk.
For God's sake, stop talking. Let the woman speak.
It's okay. My voice is pretty shot. You go ahead.
Oh, I promise I'm not going to ask you any more questions then. So one of my friends in this universe is Gina Bianchini, who founded Ning way back in the day.
Oh, I remember Ning. Yeah.
Yep. So she then went on to found Mighty Networks when she sold or whatever she did with Ning. And Mighty Networks, of course, being an even more interesting mobile experience for like self-contained platform. So she's kind of grown it into, you could put courses on it. You could put all kinds of stuff. It is a very robust for many features kind of a thing. But when I first mentioned you on LinkedIn, I sort of glued these two things together, because Gina and I have talked since like 2007 on how, big social networks are cool, but have you tried small intentional communities? And that is what Glass is. Mm-hmm. I feel that just like there's a sentiment out there for going back to a standalone camera for a lot of people, vinyl records for people, I feel like there is a sentiment for we'd be willing to pay if we can have sort of a smallish space to call our own. Are you feeling that? Is that what you're basing this on? Like, tell me a little bit about your business mind for this.
100%. Honestly, like Chris, you've tapped into a lot of where I felt like you could see things shifting and going, which was did I lose you guys, or am I just big now all of a sudden? I'm so confused.
I knew there was one part of prep I forgot to tell you, but I just made you big because I knew you were going to narrate for a minute.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it. No, we're good. Yeah. So like, I the the shift, I feel like, and I think people are feeling it as they see larger social networks like Twitter shift to become X, or you see Instagram shift to become Facebook 2.0, and engagement constant, casino of space. That there's an interest for smaller interest-based communities, I would call them. We used to call them that, sometimes clubs, where you get like this community feeling around something that you all mutually either nerd out about or really love or are passionate about. And I think it's, our members tell us they love it. We see it from our feedback, that there is a trend that way. And I think there's going to be a need or a want and a desire from media experts to people who are super passionate about wanting to grab large swaths of audience to do that. But I also think there's this, that doesn't mean that there isn't a space and room for small intentional social gatherings that really work. And you can see them. I think Discord might be an example of that kind of sprouting up and people doing them. You can even see it from, I love the podcast 99% Invisible. And, like they used to talk about all their social channels at the end of that podcast every time. And now he's like, we're on the social spaces, but come join our Discord. Or like, even this show, right? Like you got the backpack people, I think these things are, I'm hopeful. I think it's because I come from a different era of the internet, right? Like where it was smaller and felt like that, blogs, and like people had blog roles and you could kind of connect, or there was these small RSS feeds. And it was when the commercial aspects of the internet took over a lot of the big social spaces, or the internet itself kind of, then I'm hoping that we all kind of find these niches online. And I hope that people are willing to pay for them, because there's no other model that I see that works for them yet. Like maybe there's some other one, but we'll leave it at that. Because I want to hear what Carrie has to say.
No, it definitely feels to me like younger people, especially because I'm a mom, they're curating their experience online. So they're getting into specific Discords to talk about the things they want to talk about with people they've come to know. And they're not much interested in just kind of getting pulled around by marketers. So like not at all interested, I should say. So I do think there's opportunity for kind of cross-pollination between some of these Discord communities and things like Glass that speak to that same interest, I guess.
Yeah.
We might see more of that going forward.
That makes sense. That's great. Yeah, I look at those as like, Discord's a multi-purpose tool, and Glass is a very specific and intentional tool for a very specific audience and niche. And I felt like some of them need these. When we first launched, people were trying to figure us out. And so we had a lot of people sign up and try to figure out what we were all about. And then we had a lot of feedback coming in, like, can you do this for artists and painters? And I was like, we have to focus on one niche and make it successful, right? But it was really great. And I think when you were talking about Ning, I was thinking of that sort of like precursor to basically what our Discord server is now. And it's all sort of maybe what goes around comes around, but you feel it, and I'm excited about it. And I'm optimistic with the way major social networks are going, that places like us will be focused on.
What would you love to see a dedicated social network or space community created for? What would you join? What would you pay for besides Glass?
Besides Glass, that's all I think about is Glass, I feel like these days. But I guess I'm like an older white guy, but like I've gotten into like electronic music, trying to create like a bit of nerdy synth music stuff, and I'm terrible. I'm absolutely awful at it. And so it'd be interesting to get into just such an amateur, right? And so getting into a community that could teach me more about that, and I could learn about that. The downside of doing Glass is that I do love photography, and I've always been I love cameras and things. Look at Chris coming here.
Honestly, it's like show and tell. Like he's so excited to show you all the things.
Here's my device. Yeah, totally. Well, it was funny because Carrie asked the question I was going to ask, which is, you're a guy who likes cameras, but you're a guy who likes to build community platforms. So I was on that same thread that Carrie was asking, like what other kinds of applications. But like when you described Glass, it was funny because that's why people are picking up cameras again, because their phone is a camera. Their phone's a pretty good camera. But when you go to something like Glass and you can do it, it's really a place where you get that next layer. So one of the things I was thinking is I clicked on one of my photos and it says, what did I shoot? I shot Fujifilm X-T5 with a 35 millimeter. Here's what my settings were. Like it just pulls on the metadata from the shot. We can nerd about that as well. And that's what kind of gets exciting. And I think what you're alluding to is that no matter what other kind of community you'd want to build, it would have those kinds of functions that are specific to that kind of a community, right?
Absolutely. We're actually working on in the future, like more, I don't want to get into specifics because I don't want to give away the new things we're working on, but like more of the nerdy things that general purpose platforms would not do. They're just not intentioned for that. But like when you talk about cameras and lenses and getting into more nerdy parts of that experience, photography, you can get way down in the like nerd gear space. And so we're intentionally not trying to go too far in that space and really keep it about the act of taking photos and really taking great stuff and like doing that. But it's really good. One of the things that I'm most excited about right now is that it's really hard to build both a product and a community at the same time. So it's a lot of work to get the right people to understand what you're trying to build and then to sell a community to people that doesn't exist yet while you have enough time and effort and energy to build and design the product. But we're at an inflection point where with series launching soon, we've almost got the product to the point where we built it. It's taken us 3 years. We're celebrating our 3rd year anniversary tomorrow or today. I can't remember. It's like, so this is like, we've really gotten to that point. And we're still here. And that's something I'm super proud about. Like so many of the platforms come and go and they raise venture capital and then they have to pivot to some larger thing. And like, we're fully independent, fully self-funded, and just love that we get to focus on. I mean, my co-founder and I don't get to work on it full time, but we get to pinch ourselves the 3.5 days a week that we get to put into it. So it's great. Yeah.
I feel like there's a message that you sort of said but didn't say right there. There's a lot of situations where when you are self-funded, you run your own ship. And this means you can't get guac every time you go to Chipotle. It means that you do have to think what kind of wine you're going to get at dinner, or not wine. But when you get funded, you're always hiring up for a new boss. So the question is, what do you say to the people who are in the same boat as you, especially when there's an inflection point? Because what you said was, we're still at that part where we're developing a community that we want to be part of. When you sell, suddenly the boss says, I need a couple 100,000 more subs. What are you going to do to get them for me and all that? What do you say to those people that are at that inflection point?
They're at that inflection point. Well, I mean, what do you mean? Like, so they've sold their company?
They haven't raised, but now they're, the devil's at the door with a bag of money.
Okay. So, I mean, you have to stay true to what you want to build. So like, if that's what you want to, if that's where you want to go, and if that was the intention from the start to build the thing, then, and you wanted to sell and make a bunch of money and do the thing, maybe you got to do the things that you got to do. But if you're still enjoying the day-to-day aspect of the thing you're building and you're still loving it and that's making you happy, why do you want to sell it? It's because you think all that money is going to make you happier, because it's going to make you feel better about who you like. I understand the allure of a big bag of money. I spent a lot of time working for companies that offered big bags of money. But I also spent a lot of time watching people make those big bags of money and not be very happy or content with their lives. So if you're able to work on something that gives you purpose and happiness and passion, and it's maybe not making you huge bags of money, maybe that's okay. if that that's a bit of a roundabout answer, but hopefully I got to what you were driving at.
So you're like, not today, Satan.
I mean, I don't think money is necessarily evil or Satan, but like it's that you should stay true to the thing you want to be building if that's what you want to do. But if you also were in it to make a bunch of money, then that's fine too. You should like there's that, like, I don't think you have to necessarily sell out your community to just make money. Like there's a balance there to it. And I think you can. One of my other favorite social spaces that's akin to us, who's a good friend of mine, it's called Letterboxd. I don't know if you know of Letterboxd. They're a film nerd movie review site. The co-founder of that is a good friend of mine. His name is Matt Buchanan. There are two Kiwis in New Zealand, and they had the overnight success of 13 years or 12 years building it, and recently did sell to a company, a private equity firm called Tiny, but only part of it, and they still get to work on it, and they did make good money. And I think their model has done really well in terms of like Letterboxd is still doing great things, haven't necessarily, completely like given up and sold it out. Like things evolve and change, but 13 years is a long time to build a community and build a great place. But they're also an incredible, I would say, validating service of like, that's like some of the dream for us long term, where I don't know if we want to sell the Tiny, but like we want to eventually build something that's that sustainable, that long term.
Dan wants to know, what is your Letterboxd top 4, Tom Glass?
Oh man. Tom Glass. What is yours first, Gary? Give me your like top 4 Letterboxd top 4, or your top 4 movies.
Gosh, so Army of Darkness, which is Evil Dead, but it's like the third one in the series. I like horror movies, so it's gonna be like horror heavy. It Follows, because I thought that was a really kind of a scrappy horror movie, and I liked seeing them do something different. Gosh, let me think. Gone with the Wind, but because it's like, I mean, it's like a cinematic thing. I'm not gonna watch it again. I'm not gonna like. I'm good. It's 4 hours, but love that one. And then, I'd have to pick something really stupid. It's like a Bill Murray movie. One of them's in there, either Scrooged, Groundhog Day, Ghostbusters, probably Ghostbusters. I don't know. It's hard. I mean, my list though. My list is not 4. My list is like 400. So you're getting. The
I'm not a huge cinephile, so
right
like
now.
I struggle with this question. I have a TV show. Like I love the TV show series, and I'm optimistic that Letterboxd someday is going to do TV series, because that would draw me into the community in a different way. Because I get, I'm like a huge West Wing nerd. Like you can see my like passion for the like work and community and all that stuff. So that's anyway. But yeah. So I'm going to avoid the question a little bit. Just talk about my TV series. But yeah, no. Yeah,
West Wing's a good choice. Sorkin's a really good writer. Social Network is one of my favorite movies, but not my top 4. But yeah, my top 4 would be easy. It's Batman: The Dark Knight. It is Royal Tenenbaums. It is Fantastic Mr. Fox and Jaws. So
those are good. Those are great. I love good Wes Anderson.
The one you regret having seen as a child.
As a very young child. I convinced my parents to take me not only just to the movies, but to a drive-in movie theater to watch Jaws at a very single-digit age. So it's not a good choice.
Convinced, meaning throw daily tantrums till they give in.
Yeah, I was young. So I have one last question for Tom, and then we have to get out of this darn show. By the way, I did sort of forget one thing, which was, where is it? We're sponsored, so I kind of forgot to mention.
Got to do the sponsorship. Let's do it.
Got to do the sponsor, but yeah, I'm trying to find it. Dang it, where am I? I don't even work here. Okay, we're sponsored by StreamYard.
There you go.
That's how actual grown-ups can make a show better than ours if you want. Really easy. StreamYard.net/StreamYard. You can do it. It'd be so much fun. One last question for you, which is, we sort of hinted around some possibilities. Maybe some PE will come in at some point, and you'll feel good because it'll be like the right kind of balance and all that. When you're thinking about, you think about glass all the time, you think about putting these things together all the time. You mentioned that the next one, if you had to make an next one, would be like a electronics, electronic music nerd site.
I just want to join one, Chris. I don't want to do any more making of these. Yeah.
Just be on someone else's. What do you? You have a little puppy. What else are you doing to unplug yourself from everything? What's Tom time look like when you have some?
Well, I've got 2 young boys. Well, they're 9 and 12 now, excuse me. So they're getting older, but so they keep me quite busy. And I've got a new puppy, which also keeps me quite busy. But Oh yeah, Wuthering Heights, great choice, Gary. I was gonna use Usual Suspects, but now Kevin Spacey's a little canceled, so that's a little like, I also love Dead Poets Society. So anyway, but I am exceedingly tall, which you can't tell. I'm 6'9", so like I have a rough back, so I spend a lot of time in the gym these days to unplug to help myself with my back troubles, which is so I do go out and shoot photos, spend time with the puppy, a lot of time with my family, and then I live in Europe, so I try to get around. Yes, there you are. That's right. I love that quote.
It's like show and tell, Tom.
Oh, sorry.
It's like show and tell today.
It is great, you team. All right. Well, it was really wonderful to talk to both of you.
Well,
thank you for inviting me to this. It was quite fun. I appreciate it.
Utterly a pleasure. But let me tell you, there was one thing I forgot to ask you at the beginning of the show. We have two things we do every end of episode. One of them is
cool.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
I'm going to give it to Dan, who helped us with several of the graphics that you've seen and all that sort of a thing. So, Dan, your person of the day. It's a little incestuous, but, it'll happen.
Thanks, Dan.
One other thing, Tom.
Nepotism.
Every guest that we've ever had on the show is we ask the same question. There's only one question we ask the same, which is what goes in your backpack. Now, this could be something physical, like a clown nose. It could be something metaphorical, like hope for the future. Carrie, what's a good physical thing you could add to a backpack?
Ooh, extra set of teeth. DJ Cumberbund's answer.
It's a good answer. And what's something metaphysical you might add to a backpack? Metaphorical.
Kindness. Ariel Helvetica, a burlesque performer, put kindness in the backpack, directly after which I laughed in her face, but not because she said that. It was unrelated.
It's practically supper time over there, Tom. What is the choice for what you're going to throw in the backpack?
I know. I was trying to I was going to just do a camera because it feels so cliche to do, but with glass. But I was trying to come up with some metaphorical bit, and I'm gonna do the one that I think appreciation is gonna go in my metaphorical backpack because that's what we use for our likes, and I feel like it really highlights what we're about. You appreciate things on glass, and I feel like that's a different way of thinking about the meaning of the items you put it. The way in which you appreciate something is very different than just liking it casually, or and appreciate. When you say you appreciate someone, it means a lot. So I think I always want to have that appreciation in my backpack when I take out into the world, so that I can share it with others. So yeah, there you go. Hopefully it's not too cheesy, but I like it. There you go.
I like it. Well, one thing I meant to tell you. So my grandfather, before my mom, was on my dad's side of the family was the photographer, and more so nice. He was a slideshow guy, like the real live Kodak carousel, 30 or so in a dark ground. And there were things though that started to become themes in some of his. And I didn't warn you about this, but you'll follow along.
Embarrassing for your grandmother.